So what I always tell people, if you are a leader, and you all are leaders by the fact that you're here, you're an NCO or an officer, and you go into a unit, two things you have to determine. The first thing you have to determine is what are you for and what is the unit for? Not what do you do, but what are you for? Because what happens is we confuse the two. Because if you know what you are for, then that informs you about what you do. But what is a tendency is, as soon as we get to a unit, we immediately start doing stuff before we've decided what we're for. And if you start doing things you don't know what you're for, then you have no way of grading your homework. But everyone has a to-do list. Does anyone have a what am I for list? Well, for one thing, it's generally not a list. It's a thing. What the Army is for is to seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. That's what the Army is for. Seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. Not seize the high ground, not retain the bridge crossing. Seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. Okay? It may be the initiative against the Taliban. It may be the initiative against Hurricane Katrina. It may be the initiative against a humanitarian disaster. Whatever it is, we're asking the Army to seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. Why do I have to exploit? Why? Doctrine answers the questions why. Seize, retain, and exploit the initiative to maintain a position of relative advantage. To maintain a position of relative advantage. The first question may ask is, well, sir, I thought you were trying to get rid of extra words. So why don't you just say to maintain an advantage? Why did you put in relative advantage? I mean, you've added an extra word. That's not necessary. The response is absolutely necessary. Words have meanings. In every single word in this doctrine, every single word, literally, we have big discussions over. The reason we put in relative advantage in there, because we're saying the world is relative. The world is always changing. So we're saying there is no position of absolute advantage. That your advantage is relative to where you and everybody else in the world is at. And that it could change like that. That's why we're saying retaining the initiative is inadequate. You always have to be exploiting the initiative to always move to a position of relative advantage. That means you have to understand everything that is going on. You have to understand all the interrelationships that are going on. And at any given moment, you have to say, where do I need to be to maintain a position of advantage, and where do I need to move to? Because if I stay where I am, it's just a matter of time until somebody puts me in a position of disadvantage. We're not looking at a very linear battlefield like seize the high ground. We're saying seize the initiative. Where's the initiative on the map? What's the graphic for initiative? Okay. Where is the position of advantage? Well, that's relative. It's relative to what? It's relative to you. It's relative to the enemy. Well, who's the enemy? Well, it's relative. Okay. So command, by definition, is command and control is the issuing of orders and ensuring compliance. Command and control, issuing orders and ensuring compliance. What mission command is the balancing of command and control to empower leaders to seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. Okay? And so the reason we control things, but we have control measures, but we control to empower versus control to ensure compliance. Mission command is not chaos. It's not laissez-faire. It's actually just the opposite. Okay? It is understanding how you balance command and control. And sometimes in mission command, you'll have some very specific control measures, some very specific ways to control things to ensure that you are empowering the activity that you want to empower. So those are the first two big misunderstandings of mission command. One, that it's the same thing as command and control, absolutely not. Or that we replace command and control, that has nothing to do with it, absolutely not. Command and control is an integral part of mission command. It's just subordinate to command and control. Mission command tells us why we are doing command and control. Command and control is merely one of the tools we have to empower people to execute mission command. Okay? Only 3 things, okay? And we actually have them in order, and we explain them. The first thing is, if you're a commander, we say drive. This is what we want you to do. What we do is we execute mission command in order to conduct unified land operations. Mission command is not an end in of itself, okay? We execute mission command in order to conduct unified land operations. Well, what do? This is what you do. This is how you do it, okay? The first thing is drive the operations process. And to the commanders, I say, as compared to attend the operations process. I've worked for a lot of commanders as staff officer that they kind of attended the operations process. No, if you're the commander, you drive the operations process. Mission command is a very commander-centric doctrine. Okay? It's very commander empowering. Okay? We put the commander at the center. The process is not at the center. The commander is. We don't say let the process drive the commander. We don't say attend the process. We say commander, you drive the process. And you say, well, okay, sir, but I wasn't really paying attention in class. How do I drive the process? Okay, well, we got 6 more bullets. So again, we've really simplified this commander thing down. And they kind of have to be in this order. Understand, visualize, describe, and then direct, lead, and assess. Now what happens is mostly everybody immediately goes to the direct part because we're an action organization. We do things. I've got to put stuff down in my OER that I did this, I did that, I did this. So we all do things, etc. like that. What I'm telling you under mission command, the first thing you have to do is understand, visualize, and describe. By that I mean you have to understand the problem. You have to understand all of the players. You have to understand all the dynamics, all the political, cultural, kinetic, all of those things. Because first of all, if you don't understand all of that, what won't you know? You won't know what a position of relative advantage is because you don't know what's out there. You don't know who's facing you. You don't know who the players are. So you're not going to know what a position of relative advantage is if you don't understand the complexity in the environment that you're in. So that's why understanding is almost the most important thing a commander does. And in our doctrine, design, the element of design, which is really is part of the MDMP, but it's really the first part of it, is really the process of understanding the problem. I'll come back to that. Then if you're the commander or leader, once you understand the problem and all the players, you have to visualize how you're going to solve it. You have to visualize the role that everybody plays each other, how we're going to solve it, etc., what we're going to do. And then once you visualize that, you have got to describe that to people. If you're the commander, you have to describe it to your subordinates, to your peers, and to your higher headquarters. Sir, ma'am, this is the problem that I think we have. Here's how I see this thing coming to fruition, and let me describe to you how this thing is going to unfold. You notice the doctrine is not understand, visualize, tell. Okay, it's understand, visualize, describe. Because tell generally reverts back to a bunch of data. First brigade's here, second brigade's here, third brigade's here. The budget is this, etc. Like that. I'm like, in fact, I was working on the budget yesterday with senior leaders in the Army, everything like that, and they give me an Excel spreadsheet. I said, well, this tells me a lot. Bunch of numbers. But describe to me the relationship between these things. Describe to me what happens if I don't pay this bill or that bill. Describe to me what happens if I move money back and forth. Describe to me other ways I can get this function done. Okay, just don't tell me something. Don't tell me a piece of data. Describe the relationship of all the players in this problem set I have. And to do that description properly, you have to do what? You've got to understand it. And then you've got to visualize that interplay and how you can get after it. Then you can describe it. But what happens is we tell people a lot of stuff in the Army. Generally, our mission command systems are about telling you stuff. Here's a location. Here's a number of people. Here's a strength report. Here's a budget report. That's telling you stuff. But our systems generally don't describe stuff. You know who describes stuff? People. Okay, leaders. That's why that's it should be commander/leader block. That's our job. Don't just tell. We can get data a lot of places. Okay? We need somebody to describe what this all means. So, okay, so now you're following me. You got to understand, visualize, describe. Then direct, lead, and assess. Well, here's another common pitfall. So I'm giving you all the common pitfalls, so when you go back out there in the Army, you don't fall into them. This assess piece here. Everyone loves to assess. As division commander, we had an assessment cell. Again, we had plasma screens, red, amber, green circles, all this kind of stuff. But generally, what do we assess? We generally assess compliance with the plan. We assess compliance with the plan. What we really need to assess is adequacy of the plan. Okay? But what we do is, I'll go down to my talk. Hey, how are everything's going on? Ops major will stand up. Sir, it's going great. My assessment is we are on schedule. Well, not only that, we are ahead of schedule. Because we were supposed to be here. We were supposed to be at Objective A by Friday. Today's Thursday. We're on it. We're on Objective A. So my assessment is ahead of schedule. The little blue, the little circle is green. What would have been more useful to know is, okay, the compliance with the plan is great. And we, a week ago, we wrote a plan to move to Objective A. We're on Objective A. The problem is, in the meantime, Objective A has become irrelevant, and we really need to be at Objective B because the enemy was there, and now they're here. So we are in full compliance with the plan. The problem is the plan is irrelevant because throughout the process, we really should have been assessing the adequacy of the plan, not assessing our compliance with it. Now, you do have to do assessing compliance of it, but we get fixated on assessing compliance with the plan versus assessing the adequacy on it. So I will tell you a common problem both for commanders and staff is their fixation on assessing compliance with the plan. And that is because they are obsessed with directing and leading. Not that you don't have to direct and lead, but they are obsessed with their role as a director and fail to fully come to grips with their role to understand, visualize, and describe. Okay? Command and control has nothing to do with this. Another big difference of mission command. Because command and control is just ensuring compliance. It has nothing to do with the outcome, which is get to a position of relative advantage. To get to a position of relative advantage, you have to understand the problem set. I can issue an order, ensure compliance, and you can have very little understanding of the environment. All you know is move here and be there in 10 minutes. Command, control. It requires limited understanding. Okay? To execute mission command, everybody has to have common understanding. That's why you have to describe it. That's why you have to describe your visualization and get common understanding. So that's the first thing commanders have to do. I say you only have to do 3 things. So the first one is drive the process. Make sure you always have complete, perfect understanding, a great visualization, clear description. You're always leading from the front. You're giving precise directions, and you're always assessing the accuracy of your plan. Not that hard, right? That's number 1. That's 33% of your job as commander. The next thing is build teams, both within and outside your organization. I will tell you, it's hard enough building teams inside your organization. It's even harder outside your organization. But in this complex world that we're operating in, you've got to have teams outside your organization. Otherwise, you're going to find that you have a lot of weak spots. And there's no unit in the Army that can do anything by ourselves. So we have to have it as a team of teams. The Army can't do anything by itself. It takes a great Navy, a great Air Force, great Marine Corps, great coalition partners, great interagency, etc. like that. You have to have a great team. That's a very commander-centric requirement, is to build teams and relationships with people. And then the last thing is inform, influence audiences inside and outside the organization. Again, it's hard enough to influence people inside your organization to get everyone on the same sheet of music. It's even more difficult outside the organization because you're trying to influence people that don't work for you. They're not on your line of block diagram. You're not in their rating scheme. That's much harder, okay? But it's hard enough, though, I think you'll agree, even everybody that's on your rating scheme, okay? Not that that's the great leverage of the world, but it is a tool. It's hard enough to get all those people headed in the same direction. So how do you possibly get people that aren't even in the Army, aren't even in unit? How do you influence them? You know one of the ways you influence them is you come up with a common understanding of the problem and a common visualization of how you're going to solve it. Okay? So if you're working with the State Department folks, Treasury folks, you say, you know what? think we've got a problem here. I think we've got a problem, economic problem with this country. Or I think we got this kind of problem. I think there's a treasury issue here. I think there's a financial aspect. I think there's an economic. Yeah, you're right. There is. Well, I can help you. I can provide security here for the banks. You can go in and do this, et cetera, like that. Hey, that sounds great. Hey, we now have a common understanding and visualization of how we're going to work together. So we've built the team. We're building a team now. And now the way that I'm influencing them is I am describing my visualization of how we're going to work together based on the common understanding. That's how you influence people that aren't in your organization. That's how you influence outside the organization, is that they have to have a common understanding and a common visualization about what you're going to do. I'm glad you asked that question. So we do have a box over here for staff here. And it has, conduct the process. So you're probably doing MD, MP, and all that. I mean, that's what the staff does, conduct it. But the most important thing the staff does is support the commander to do these things. And I will tell you, and I tell my staff all the time, the most important thing you do for me is help me to understand the problem. Because the commander is not omnipotent and all-knowing, et cetera, like that. So, what were you, AG?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, a big thing for commanders is personnel management and all that. So, I got to tell you, I had a great Division G1. And she was on top of all that stuff. And, just from a straight management point of view, what about this? What about that? In fact, I was telling the folks earlier, when I took command of division, one of the brigades was in combat. And unfortunately, very rough going, lost a lot of soldiers, KIA, working with HRC, we got more people. And I mean, they just wanted to get their time in. Literally, these people are under fire. So she comes up and, me and Sergeant Major Chief of Staff, she's like, well, sir, let me tell you where everybody in the division is. Let me give you a visualization. Let me give you a visualization who already is SRP'd. Let me give you a visualization about who is deployable and not deployable. And I'm gonna give you an understanding of the people in the 4th Infantry Division, where they are in every unit, and then where that unit is in its R4 Gen cycle of readiness. Because what I said is I have an infantry brigade in contact, and soldiers are getting killed. And I cannot wait for the normal requisition process, et cetera, like that, all the way through our HRC. Although great folks, they're telling me, yeah, I'll have replacements here in 6 months. I'm like, no, I need somebody on a plane next week. So the G1 came down and laid that all out to me so that I understood. She had a great visualization because she was able to describe the personnel situation of my division. I had no idea. Okay, I knew there was a bunch of infantrymen, armor side, and I knew they were out there somewhere. But quite honestly, if they had told me, they said, well, sir, this brigade's at 98%, this brigade's at 50%, this brigade's at that. I'm like, that's interesting data, but what I need you to describe to me is, well, where are they in the training cycle? And if I pull people out of this brigade, how long do they get and then am I robbing catered to people? In fact, yeah, they're at 98%, but 50% are non-deployable. Or these people just SRP, so actually you can get them on the plane tomorrow and do this, and actually where they are in the R4 Gen cycle is here, like other people coming in, so we can do this and this. And she described to me in a great visualization that even an armor officer like I could understand. I said, you know what? It's becoming clearer and clearer where I am going to take these infantrymen at Fort Carson and who I am going to send to Afghanistan right now. It had nothing to do with the G3. It had everything to do with the G1. It had nothing to do with the operations officer. He wasn't even in the meeting. Okay, it was about fighting in a war in Afghanistan. But it was, for me, I had to visualize and understand the personnel. I had to understand the personnel, not just how many I had in the division. I had to understand where they were, what level of readiness they were, what would be the impact, what were the MOSs, on, leader-to-lead ratio, et cetera, who's going to be in the rear D. Staff officers have a huge role to play in this understanding and visualization. I got to tell you, when I go brief senior leaders in the Army, the Chief Secretary of the Army, General Cone or something like that, I'll go up and tell them, the first thing I tell them, because I'm the doctrine czar, right? I remind them, gentlemen, this briefing is an understanding, visualization, and description briefing. That's the words I use. What I'm here today is to describe to you my visualization of how we're going to solve this based on my understanding. I am not going to ask you for guidance. This is not a direct lead and assess brief. This is merely a brief for you, the chief, the secretary, myself, trade commander. This is for a brief for us to get to the common understanding. Do we know where all the 11 series people are, where they are in SRP, who's coming in, strengths, everything like that, and lay it all out. And once we have the common understanding, And we all agree, yeah, you're right, that's right, okay, I got it, green, red, I got it, okay. Now that we're all understanding that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you a brief, which I think will lead to a direction, a decision. But I'm not going to get to that decision point until we all have a common understanding. That, I'm telling you, staff officers think their big job is in here. I'm telling you, it is assisting, supporting the commander under understanding and visualizing.